Welcome back to another Hockey Nation video with the hockey coach Frenchie with the co-host Marco Larabé. Today, we start a new series. It's called the NHL Team Breakdown. And Marco, give us a little bit more information. What we're going to do during the month of August.
Well, it's pretty quiet right now, Coach. Not lots happening. So perfect time to kind of, it's that time of year where most of the free agent signings are done. The UFAs are still just some news percolating. So it's a great time to kind of analyze, maybe do some season previews for all the different teams. So this is going to be really exciting. You're going to see tons of videos coming from this channel in the coming weeks. We're going to do 10 to 15 minute breakdowns of every single NHL team. What do they do during the summer? Do they look better? Do they look worse? What's going to happen? Are they going to be in the playoffs? All that stuff. Tune in here, guys. You're about to get a whole bunch of great content from your friends at Hockey Nation. So very excited. Today, Coach, we're starting with the Boston Bruins.
Yeah, the Boston Bruins. By the way, we're going to have Tap split your job with you because you guys, you're going to do all the 32 teams. So Tap is going to be a part of the fun team and during the month of August. So the first team, guys, is the Boston Bruins, like Marco said. And on that one, you can see all its fun things. I'm going to go a little bit, Marco, on different information. The Boston Bruins, since 2021-2022, they have 107 points. They jump at 135. And then you have the departure of Patrice Bergeron and Krejcik years ago, and they dropped at 109. Now, they lost a couple of players, Nebraska, Ullmark, and then GVR and Krejcik are out for the Boston Bruins, and they bring Elias Lindholm, Zadorov, and Korpisalo, the goaltender of the Ottawa Senators. And you can see this going to be changing the lineup. If you talk about the forward, Marco, Pastrnak, 110 points last year. Again, 47 goals. Marchand, still with the Boston Bruins at 36 years old. The captain at 67 points. And Lindholm, now part of the Boston Bruins, it will be his first year as the Thunder number one. You have Charlie Coy from the Minnesota Wild, play a solid year last year at 60 points. And then Pavel Zacha, another player, came for the New Jersey Devils, have a great year. And we can talk about Frederic and KK on the bottom six on the forward. On the defense, they have a really solid now four core. McAvoy, Lindholm, Zadorov, and Carlo. And then they still have Swayman, the goaltender, the 25th years old. 2.53 last year and the same percentage of 9.16. Biggest thing for me, Marco, is the prospect. They don't have a lot of prospect, and they maybe expect to see Mathieu Poitras for the upcoming year. They use the big defenseman, the left defenseman, Laurie, during the playoff. And then they get Betcher, another first-round pick. Lizel never make it yet, the Boston Bruins. And then they got, for the first round this year, Dean Letourneau. For the year upcoming, the next summer, in 2025, they have a couple of UFA, Marchand, Frederic, KK. And then they have a couple RFA, like Betcher. And they still have two other RFA and 4 UFA, but they are more like at the bottom of the lineup. If you look about the performance last year, 14 on the goal and 4. They are 5th on the goal against. Power play 14, and the special team on the PK have been solid at 7. They have a progressively $8.6 million open up right now, but they have to sign Swayman. So when I said all those information, Marco, would like to see what do you think about would be the contract of Jeremy Swayman.
Listen, if you're a Boston Bruins fan, you're definitely kind of a little bit nervous that this hasn't got done yet. Especially, you would imagine if you're Don Sweeney that the order of how you'd have done this is you would have taken care of him first. You take care of Swayman, and then you move Ullmark. But they've already moved Ullmark. Bruins fans are like, "What's going on with Swayman? Like, why isn't he locked into a long-term deal yet?" Like, I know if I was a Boston fan, which I'm not because this is a Habs channel, but if I was, I would be a little nervous because this should be wrapped up, Coach. What that tells you is obviously they're not aligned on what the cap hit should be for this, because I would be shocked if they're both not aligned with the length of the deal. Like, they probably both want to have security in long term, but obviously, there's only 8.6 of cap left for the Bruins. They've already moved out a couple, like DeBrusk is gone. They've already had to make some other concessions after bringing in Zadorov at a pretty big number. That's a tough one, Coach. Like, I see Swayman eating a lot of that 8.6. Like, how do you see Swayman making less than 7 or 7.5? based on how he did in the playoffs, coming in at least 7 years.
The goaltender at $10 million is Proboski. Vasilevsky is at 9.5. And they have a few goaltender over. Zaros just get a new contract, right? A couple of weeks ago. I think for me, Swayman, if he can get an 8 years contract, between 6.5 to 7.5, that would be the targeting number, in my opinion, for the Boston Bruins. They recognize as a team don't give a lot of money. They open up more for the last 2 years with Pasternak get over the 11 million, and then McEnroy signed at 9.5. You're absolutely right when you said 7.5.
Then why isn't it done yet, Coach? Like, it seems logical to us. So do you think Swayman, again, like I compare this a little bit to how the Leafs managed, the sequence of contracts when they went and got John Tavares, and then after that they extended Marner, and after that they got Tavares, right? Is it the sequence and then they did this? Because they actually, here's a great example. Exactly what Ken Hughes said last year. He didn't want to trade Allen right away because Montembeault wasn't signed yet. So if you trade Allen, and if you lose Primo on waivers, then guess who has all the leverage? Montembeault. And guess who has all the leverage right now in Boston? Swayman. Interesting question. Not sure if I am a Boston Bruins fan. I love how they've managed this whole situation. But hopefully, if you're a Bruins fan, it works out, because there's no question Swayman is arguably one of the best young goaltenders in the game right now. Lights out in the playoffs last year, carried them, in my opinion, through the first round. Really a bright spot. And as we know, looking at this roster, Coach, Boston is a team that's built on the back end.
Yeah. Sorry about that. You're right. The goaltender said it. Or just talk about those defensemen, right? When you talk about Boston Bruins, you talk about culture. You talk about many fans put, this is enough. They're going to go down this year. They're not going to make the playoff. Then they find a way to come back. The departure of Bergeron, example, the Krejcik, a lot of people expect this is over for them. But still find a way. Really good team and NHL. And one of the reasons behind is the head coach, Jim Montgomery, did really well behind. But now, you have a term in hockey said the window is closing, right? And this is where I think the Boston Bruins in the next 3 years, this is their chance, because after that, with not much prospect is coming, they will have to make some kind of change at some point. They're getting older. Marchand is going to be out. What do you feel about the Boston Bruins this year and then the next 2 years?
I think you're bang on, Coach. If you look at the team year over year, adding Lindholm, there's no question. I think everybody definitely pointed out that if Boston did have a weakness, it was at center, right? So you go out and you address that, but then you lose depth with DeBrusk, who is, a pretty big fixture on their top six, even though he wasn't a massive contributor during the regular season. He was I think he led them in scoring in the playoffs, or very close to it. In terms of depth, like you said, there's not much coming from below to kind of when you're a competitive team like this, that's what you want to see, right? You want to see young players coming up in ELCs taking roster spots and playing important minutes on your team. Lohrei is a perfect example of that, right? Like, young defenseman, going to be very affordable for the next couple of years, and he's going to play important minutes for them on the back end. But they don't have anything like that up front. Geeky's been a very good value signing for them. Frederick's come up and played some really important
Brazo pick up, right? Is 26, 27 years old, big body. Trent Frederick. They have some kind of force checker. They fit well. The last 3 years, they got eliminated second round, first round. This is a team, Marco, they will make the playoff. I put the projection, I put 95 points, make the playoff, in my opinion. But it's a team of what Slay miss talent, go deeper. And until they don't get those kind of players, I believe this other team is going to make the playoff and get kicked out in the playoff really quickly.
If you're Don Sweeney, you're looking at this, and I think in the short term, you're happy of what you did here. Like, I think you're icing another competitive team for another year. Like, it's hard to argue that adding Lindholm and adding Zadorov doesn't make them better. Taking a bit of a gamble on some of the players we mentioned in their bottom nine being able to contribute as much, and that depth, so you're kind of like rolling the dice a little bit and hoping that you're going to get some production a little bit further down the lineup, right? And you hope that's going to take you far enough. Right now, you're in that window, and you still have Marchand. You still, like, we were talking about this before the show, Coach. Like, it's hard to not like Boston's core, and and they're still pretty young, right? So if you look at the core three pieces there, so you got, first of all, Pasternak, you got Swayman, and then you've got McAvoy. Those are three guys that are mid 20s, that are, these guys still have a bit of runway, right? So it's not like Pittsburgh, where it's Malkin and Crosby, where they're all 34, 35. You have Marchand that's definitely getting long in the tooth at 36. If you're Don Sweeney, you want to be competitive right now, but you're going to need to figure out something here to retool in the next year or two to keep, because still can't rebuild when you have three players like I just mentioned, right? Like you need to, it's like when Montreal, that's the thing you could say about Marc Bergevin, right? Like as long as he had Price and Weber, he couldn't do a rebuild because those players were just too good, and it gave you a chance to maybe win the cup or make the playoffs every year. So it's going to be the same concept with Boston, with players like Swayman, Pasternak, and with McAvoy. You're right; they need to kind of fill the cupboards a little bit. Letourneau, I think he's an intriguing prospect, but he's quite the project. We'll see how he does in the NCAA next year. They'll just, like I said, they'll have to roll the dice, hope that some of these bottom line players will hit. And then one other thing I want to mention, Coach, is what I saw in the Boston, reading some of the media around Boston. A lot of people were very critical of the move that they did to, and with the return that they got for Allmark. But I don't hate this return. Like I think Korpisalo, is a serviceable guy. Like Boston comes out of this situation with still a very, very good 1-2 punch in net, right? Like I think Korpisalo as your number two, I wouldn't be shocked to see a very good resurgence from him. So I really like that move. Like I said, Boston is built to have a really strong back end. I'm not sure if they would be as strong if they expected Swayman to be Connor Hennebuck and play like 70 games. I think this allows him to play that 50, 55 games, and then you still have a really solid backup for Korpisalo. So in the short term, I'm with you, Coach. I see playoffs. I don't know how many points, hard to predict, but I definitely see them finishing in the top three in the Atlantic, most likely for me.
I still believe maybe it will be hard on the top three this year with Tampa Bay, Florida, but they will fight for the spot number 3, in my opinion, with Tampa Bay Lightning. That will be my expectation for the upcoming year. And remember, again, we talk about they don't have no prospect. They don't have second-round pick and 4th-round pick for the upcoming NHL Draft 2025. This is about the Boston Bruins, and that would be our first team on the August. Marco, I don't know if you want to add something else before we close selection of the breakdown of of course, the Boston Bruins with the general manager, Don Sweeney, and the head coach, Jim Montgomery.
I think it was a good first preview, Coach. Boston Bruins fan, if you're watching this and you're seeing two Montreal Canadiens podcast guys doing a season preview of your Boston Bruins, hey, it's July. Pardon us, but leave your comment below. What do you think? Where do you think the Boston Bruins are going to finish? What do you like? What don't you like about what they did this summer? Let us know. Let us know if you have any questions, and we look forward to seeing you in the next team preview.
Until the next time, my friend, of course, remember, you have greatness inside of you, and we wish you an amazing, great, blessed day, everybody.